Did Labour deputy Angela Rayner cheat on taxes? Well, if anything, the amount involved is small, but reason enough for a harsh attack from the interested parties. The British media is keeping alive an alleged tax scandal involving leading Labour politician Angela Rayner. In doing so, they do political PR for the Conservatives here. The conflict in the Middle East, the dire state of the health system, the endless struggle over the Rwanda law. There is really no shortage of issues of importance in the political establishment in the UK. But politics in the United Kingdom can sometimes be a bit crazy, which is why the front pages of many daily newspapers in recent weeks have regularly appeared with at least a reference to the latest developments in Rayner House Row. Labour Deputy Leader Angela Rayner's house dispute is actually a matter for tax nerds and a prime example of political PR. The first thing to say about Lord Ashcroft is that he has acquired a certain reputation in the UK since he wrote about David Cameron and the pig. 9 years ago, in the unauthorized biography Call Me Dave, Ashcroft described how the former British Prime Minister was said to have been involved in an indecent ritual during his college years involving a private part of his body and the head of a dead pig. Cameron refused to comment at all on the matter known as Piggate at the time, but Lord Ashcroft has since secured the nation's attention when he publishes unauthorized biographies of politicians. In mid-March, Ashcroft's latest work, The Red Queen, an unauthorized biography of Angela Rayner, the red-haired Labour deputy leader, was published. Although the book lacks pigheads, it does not lack anecdotes with potential for excitement. One of them has been occupying the British media for weeks. For the British, and especially for Rayner and the Labour Party, the matter is also the first foretaste of the next few months, the upcoming and possibly dirty election campaign. At the core of the matter is the question of whether Angela Rayner overlooked or even deliberately failed to pay tax debts, and at what address she lived during her marriage to Mark Rayner. The story is not entirely straightforward, but the details are important to understand the political difference between fact and accusation. It began when Rayner grew up in a working-class family supported by state welfare and in 2007 bought her family's house in the Manchester area for a low rent. This is a common occurrence in Great Britain when the income circumstances of the people being supported change. The right to home ownership is a value deeply anchored in the British soul. Rayner, then called Angela Bowen and a single mother of one son, paid £79,000 for the house. At the time, she was working as a social worker and a senior union member. In 2010, she married trade unionist Mark Rayner, and the couple had 2 more sons. Mark Rayner also owned a house, and it is from this point in the story that British tax law begins to play a role. Anyone who buys and sells a house in the UK must pay tax on the profit made, unless an exception applies. For married partners who own several properties, one main residence can be reported to the tax authorities, which is then the property that would be exempt from tax if sold. Rayner sold her house in 2015 for £127,500, which would have been with a taxable gain of £48,500, although she paid no tax at the time. The accusation that Ashcroft has now formulated and that the British media and various tax experts have been chewing over for weeks is that Rayner and her husband lived mostly in his house, so she would have had to pay tax on the sale of her house. According to estimates, the sum is between £1,500 and £3,500, which is kind of not so much. Rayner insists she made no mistake, and it's possible, noted tax expert Dan Needle, that she invested so much in renovations that there was no taxable profit left. When asked by various Tories that she disclose her tax returns, Rayner responded defiantly. She would be happy to do so, but only if those who demanded it also published theirs. Tory affiliate papers such as the Daily Mail recently appeared almost daily with almost absurd headlines like "Rayner is fooling you, Keir," referring to Labour leader Keir Starmer. In any case, no one doubts that there's a political motivation behind the matter. Local elections will take place in the kingdom on May 2nd, in which the Tories are predicted to have a disastrous result. And several mayors will be elected, including in London, as well as many local councils across the country, and according to the polls, many Tories could lose their jobs. In addition, Michael Ashcroft is not only the author of unauthorized books, but was once deputy leader of the Tories and sat in the House of Lords for years as a Tory lord, until ironically he had to resign in 2015 due to discrepancies in his tax status. Ashcroft is a billionaire and is considered one of the richest 150 Britons. In recent years, he has donated several £100,000 to the Conservatives. Rayner's communication strategy of insisting she did the right thing and trying to throw the blame back on the Tories could have unfavorable consequences for her boss Keir Starmer and her party, though. Police in Greater Manchester announced at the weekend that they were investigating, following a tip-off from a Tory MP. However, the tax issue is not relevant for the police. From a legal point of view, it would be statute barred even in the unlikely event of an offence. But the question that is addressed is if Rayner actually lived primarily in her then-husband's house in the years before she was elected as an MP and not in her own house, as she stated in the electoral register, then that would be a violation of the law. Rayner said she would of course resign in that case. A police meeting was held on Monday to discuss how to proceed, but I don't know it when I'm filming that. A long-term investigation is to be expected, and painfully long or pleasantly long, depending on your perspective. But nevertheless, the election campaign continues elsewhere as well. Because despite ongoing criticism in Great Britain, the Conservatives in Parliament have once again supported the planned deportation of irregular migrants to Rwanda. On Monday evening, in the lower house, they rejected several changes that the upper house had called for. The opposition accused the Conservative Tories of wasting money and breaking international obligations with the agreement. I would even say international law. The British government wants to immediately deport migrants who arrive in Great Britain without the necessary documents to Rwanda. No consideration should be given to personal circumstances. The people should then apply for asylum in Rwanda. The highest court in London rejected the project as unlawful, and the government now wants to declare the East African country as a safe third country by law and thus prevent objections in the British courts. The aim of the project is to deter people from coming across the English Channel in boats, which didn't help so far. It's a complete waste of time and money. It's a ploy to make tabloid headlines. That was the criticism by Alison Thewlis of the Scottish SNP, adding that the government currently has to look for airlines to support its plan because none have agreed so far and none want to be associated with the plans. And State Secretary Michael Tomlinson, however, defended the plans. "We have a moral obligation to stop the boats," is what he said in Parliament in London. "The borders must be protected and lives saved from the dangerous crossing." The government's plan is stuck in a coordination process between both chambers of Parliament that is known as ping-pong. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak hopes the law will be passed by Parliament this week, but we will see how that will be. And if you want to know more, the next video is right in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.